Hi folks, I want to read to you an email I got yesterday. Dear Mr. Jones, I am writing to inform you that your cottage is in violation of NESC, which is the National Electrical Standards Code, I think, or Service Code. Code number 235C2B1A. Therefore, your cottage will have to be torn down. I'm not a superstitious person, but welcome to the Healing Hut, episode number 13.
I wanna cozy up with you, fire golden and Joni's blue. I wanna float away with you, river running to somewhere new with you.
Well, I have to tell you about my really bad week. My week from hell. What's the book? I forgot the name of the author, but it's about the little boy with his really bad day. You know what I'm talking about. So my last episode, I finished filming on Sunday. Today is Friday, last Sunday, and within probably 3 hours of me filming that, I became seriously ill suddenly. Very high temperature, not nausea, projectile vomiting, diarrhea, severe abdominal pain, all these things, and ended up spending the night in the hospital. And the final diagnosis, which I agree with, is salmonella with probable septicemia based on the lab results. So I went through aggressive treatment that night with antibiotics and fluids, and spent the next 3 or 4 days on my back fighting that infection. And then yesterday was the first time I came outside, Thursday. So no work on the cottage this week. And I was going to come up here and do one thing to the cottage in about 30 minutes. And I came up here and ran one wire, very weak. Got back to my computer, and there was the email I just read you. It's profoundly depressing. And the point is, I'll show you. It's a warmer day. The goats are out having fun this morning playing. If you look at this power line above my head, I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It's a primary line, probably 24 or probably 4,000 volts. The space between that power line and this closest point of the cottage, which is this little corner, cannot be less than 7.5 feet. I didn't know that, but that's the rule, and mine is like 6 feet. So for that reason, Puget Sound Energy has asked me to tear down the cottage. Well, I went through all the normal procedures of working with an architect, with a site plan, with engineers. The county guy's been out here probably 12 times doing inspections to make sure the cottage is located in a proper place. You know, when we were doing footings, we could move the cottage a foot or two easily, but not now. Not now. So it left me for a very depressing day. And so I've begun to correspond with Puget Sound, and I talked to my electrician guru guy who spent a career as an electrical inspector, and said he's never ever heard of this. He looked up the code and said to him it's a suggestion, and he just shocked that they would say I'd have to tear the cottage down. Well, they did eventually come back and say, well, if we can move the power line and you pay for it, that might work, and that could be thousands of dollars. So anyway, that's where we're at. And they're going to send an engineer out here for me to talk to. Well, that was 2 disasters. I've had one other disaster. I'm going to try to show you. Hope I left my flashlight out here because it's dark inside and you can't see with the camera. Oh yeah, I did. So I'm going to explain this. Here is my electrical box in the floor that I've talked about that before, poured to the concrete. And now look at this door frame. This door frame is exactly where the architect put it, but I was a novice, and I decided, oh, I can fudge what the architect does. And I moved this door over about a foot and made it wider in case I ever have to be in a wheelchair, or my wife has to be in a wheelchair, me more likely, the way things are going. And when I moved it over, I then threaded the conduit under the floor to right here. You can't even see it. The concrete's a little darker. But the conduit came up right here because that was inside the wall, my new wall. But then, when I went to build the balcony, I then realized that this balcony supporting beam, which is right here, was going to be right in the doorway because the door now had moved over, and that's impossible because you have to have a header above the door, and this beam has to go all the way through the wall. So that both of those can't be true. So I had to tear out this whole friggin' wall. This is probably in June, and rebuild it with the door exactly the way the architect had drawn it. Here's the problem though. My conduit, which had been inside the wall, was now right here inside the doorway. So I had to get a jackhammer, dig up my floor, down to the conduit, and then reroute it in this very convoluted way through like 4 or 5 90-degree L's to get it to come out eventually over here. And then I went ahead and thread it with wire because I knew once I pour new concrete back in, I'll never be able to put a wire through all those convoluted L's. Well, when my electrical guru guy was here, the first thing he said was, you got the wrong wire in there. And I said, what? He said, it has to be a gray wire because it's a high moisture area. And I'd asked the guy at Home Depot or wherever, which is bad idea. I'd never ask those people electrical things. Not that they're bad people, but just that they don't know. I said, I'm running, electrical wire through conduit, which is the wire. You need this one, this yellow here. And it is wrong. Actually, I need this gray, moisture-resistant wire. So when the electrician said that wire's got to be replaced, it's a nightmare. I got a lot of nightmares going on in my life right now. So I have to tear this door out. I have to jackhammer the floor way down this time, probably a couple of feet to get the whole conduit. Reroute, or take the yellow wire out, reroute the conduit back in the wall, and rethread gray wire in it. So that's my week. I hope your week has gone better. But hang out, we'll see how things go today. I feel a bit more encouraged. I'm still struggling with this whole idea of tearing down the cottage. I've decided to write an appeal tomorrow and start that process. But it's just a hassle that I never knew was going to come. But yesterday I chiseled up my concrete with my jackhammer. And this morning, this is the situation. I need to clean this up. I had this wall open. I wanted to go ahead and spray foam in it. And I did, but boy, did it grow. It even laid eggs over here in a corner. But anyway, I'm going to vacuum this up, saw the styrofoam off. Then I'm going to mix 2 layers of concrete. The first layer will actually be a concrete mix just at the very bottom. And then because the top is so thin, I'm going to put a high-strength mortar, or grout. It's really a grout that I think has the same color as the floor. I think it's what I used last time. So that's what you're going to be seeing me doing. So this is what I have in my hole. I might vacuum that out a little bit more. And then I'll start mixing up concrete and trying to match it with the color of the floor, I hope. Well, that went easy because my puller wire is already here. So I need to hook my good wire to it and pull it back out, and I'll be done. That'll be my only job for the day. I was afraid it would get stuck. I've got a couple of sharp angles. might be able to. The wire came off the puller, but it's still going pretty good. Oh, it's up, it's up. Yay, it's up. I'm gonna give myself plenty of wire to work with on this end. And, well, man, I have my wire cutters out here. I've got a problem that there's water down in my conduit because, of course, this concrete floor is exposed to the weather without a building on it for months. But I've tried pumps, I've tried everything, and this is the only way I've figured out how to get the water out of this conduit. So you wonder how I get salmonella. I got salmonella by eating an undercooked egg. A normal person would have done fine, but that's the problem with multiple myeloma. Good morning, goaties. Hi, chickens. Well, I get to do a little carpentry while I'm doing electrical. I got to cut out blocks. And these blocks will go on this beam. I'll have 2 pendant lights on each side out there, but it's much easier to work here. Once I get these cut out, I'll have to put a ladder up and actually mount these where they belong. So this is where they'll go. There'll be a metal light holder here. So this is off. I measured precisely, but I'm off probably 2 degrees, so I'm gonna have to recut those. Probably, yeah. I'll mention again that my tools that I have, I had to buy several, are very basic. I don't have a workshop really. So a lot of things I have to do the old-fashioned way of hand saws. I'm talking about muscle-powered hand saws and chisels, because I don't have a router table, a planer table, joiner, things like that, that a good workshop like my son has would have. And I mentioned before, he said, "Do not bring any my wood over there to his place because my wood has nails in it occasionally." I'm glad that I was able to use the old wood from the old frame of my door that I replaced with my Civil War wood. I've been able to use it for this thing I'm building. See, this will go in here like this. This will go up behind the beam. And the pendant light will hang from this electrical outlet. So this is all electricity stuff, but it doesn't seem like it. At least there's a little bit of carpentry that gets thrown in. This one's about done. I did buy a really nice Japanese chisel, and they make some of the best. I mean, it wasn't real expensive, like $30. So I think I got 4 of these, and I'll get these all fixed, and then I got to drill them out to make room for the wires. I keep having chickens walking on my table today. Turned out my wife did not mean to let the chickens out. It was an accident, and we have to be careful because we have coyotes and eagles, bald eagles, and owls that eat our chickens. And one day a bald eagle swooped down and grabbed a chicken like nothing and took off with it. Now if I had a router table, that's what I would use for this. So I use my saw as a router. I do have a handheld router, but you can't control it for something like this. I'm digging out a track on this piece here for the wire to run. Finish another episode. I'm gonna go over what we've accomplished. Not so much this last couple of weeks due to my illness and issues that I've raised about the power company. I'll talk about that more in a minute. Well, the big thing I got done, I had my ceiling blocks put in that hold pendulum lights. They're all wired. That took probably 4 days to carve out those blocks and to get it wired and get it up there and get it screwed in and glued in. It's hard working in that height. So also I have all my electrical boxes put in. No wires in them yet, except for the floor box is wired. I have my stove, a plug-in there ready to go. So I'm going to be leaving town for a week, and when I get back, I'll go in earnest, getting things wired up. I want to just give an update on the situation with the power company. It's been really, well, you know how depressing it was to deal with this. So I wrote an appeal about the violation of the code of being a couple of feet inside the boundary. And so I got a letter back from Puget Sound, and it sounded encouraging at first. I think we can work this out. Thanks for the letter. It's informative. However, there's another issue. We think your cottage is inside the boundary of the power company's easement. Now, I went through all the paperwork of of our property, and nowhere does it talk about a power company easement. Now, I did eventually, after spending some money and getting a full report of our property, find in 1953 the power company got an easement through our property for a power line, but there's no description of it. So anyway, the way they've left it, it's now my responsibility to get a surveyor out here to stake out the easement. And then if I'm in violation of that, that's another problem. But this whole thing has been so discouraging. And if you boil it down to whose fault is it? Well, it's my fault. It's the homeowner's fault. But if you go back to the beginning of this, when we were doing the site plan, I contacted 5 surveyors in the area, and only one would get back to me. I left message after message with surveyors. They are so busy, just like all the skilled craftsmen in this area are so busy. Finally, one got back to me, and he was very dismissive. What do you want? And I said, I need to survey my property, because I knew about easements. We have a legal wetland to our south. We have a lake frontage to our east, and those things have easements that you cannot build on. So I knew about those, and we also have one with a neighbor in a driveway. I did not know about the power company. It never crossed my mind. But anyway, the one surveyor that got back to me, he said, I just looked on your record. Your property was surveyed 10 years ago. I'm not coming out there to survey it. I got too much to do. I'm booked out for months. And I said, well, we want to break ground. And the architect was saying, well, we really need a survey, but if you can't get one, then we don't have one. So a survey at that time probably would have discovered, they have access to paperwork that I don't, that there was an easement. Anyway, that's where that stands. I'll get the survey now. And if we're over the border, I don't know what that's going to mean, but it's just discouraging. But one of the things that's done to me, I've noticed this week, besides being really down, it's just, and I say this for people who might be watching this who are dealing with chronic health problems, cancer and things like that. There's part of having cancer that I never considered. And I'm a medical provider, and I've had many patients with life-threatening illnesses, and it just didn't dawn on me how you lose your self-esteem when you become suddenly ill. Your career ends, you lose your friends, you go from this strong person that's sort of the physical leader in the family to a very weak person. I hate to use the word cripple, but that's what I was. So you sort of lose your self-esteem. And building this cottage is way beyond my wheelhouse. And I've been trying my best to follow all the rules, all the codes. I spend hours and hours and hours on YouTube and reading books. But things like a power company easement never crossed my mind, and it's my fault. I missed it. So it it just has taken away all my confidence that I can do this when I make a mistake like that. I did do some research on, can you build on a power company easement? And the answer I got online, and you can't trust everything you get online or what AI will tell you, but it says, yes, you can build on a power company's easement. However, build in a way that you don't interfere with them using machines to get to their power, to their poles and to their lines. And if your structure is in the way, it may have to be demolished if there's an urgency. In our situation, our power line goes across the field completely unhindered. There is a ton of access. Even here at the cottage, the wire is 6 feet away from the cottage. There's plenty of room on the other side to park trucks if you had to change the power line or anything like that. But anyway, Puget Sound is pressing this. I don't know why. I feel like I'm being bullied, although I don't feel sorry for myself because it is my fault. So that's where things are. The good news is, compared to last week, physically I am doing much better. I'm feeling back to my normal. So that I'm very happy about. So I'm going to go down to visit some family, find some sun, try to lift my spirits and get back up here and get to work on this cottage. But thanks so much for coming along.